So today I'm going to show you how to replace the drive shafts or the CVs on your front wheel drive. So this starlet belongs to a guy I work with and a good mate of mine, Nathan. I've already jacked the car up to get started. So you need to order your CVs. So I've jacked the car up, got my jack stand in place, the wheels off the ground. So the first thing you need to do is take out this split pin here. So once you've got that split pin out, you take this cover off, which is just a castle nut style cover. Shows you the new nut that you have to take off. So this nut is on the end of the CV, so you just need to get your socket and undo that. So when you're undoing this nut, I definitely suggest getting yourself an impact driver. So I bought this the other day. It is the 3/4 inch, like 2000 Newton meter Milwaukee impact gun, so it's an absolute beast. So undo that nut, then take these 4 off and take your wheel off. Once you've got the wheel off, it'll show your brakes and all that sort of stuff. So you have to undo these 2 bolts here on the bottom of the suspension. So the strut comes here, undo these 2 and take your caliper off and undo that bolt in there that holds the brake line to the strut. So I've undone the brake caliper and moved it to the side, and the disc wanted to just come off, so I've taken that off and put it to the side. So then I've taken this top strut bolt out, so now I can take this bottom one out. The caliper was in the way, so I can take that out now. I need to undo that 12mm just there so that the caliper can get right out of the way and this whole hub assembly can swing forwards. So now everything is undone. I've put the caliper up on the tie rod end because you're not supposed to let it hang from the brake cable like that. Now I need to push this shaft here, which is the CV or drive shaft, which is this part here and goes off into the gearbox. So you push that out through the hub and then get it over separately. So sometimes this is really difficult and you have to sacrifice a nut or the shaft depending on what you're keeping. So this time it was really easy. I just used the dead blow hammer, gave it a few taps from the front on the front of the threads here, and it just pushed out. Super easy this time. So next up, this is the worst part of this whole job. So you can see I'm from the front of the car here facing the back. I've just been working over here. This is the CV I've taken out and that's the shaft. So it goes all the way through to here to the gearbox where it says DP7 up there. So now I need to crack that out of the gearbox. So I normally just use a pry bar and put it in here like this. Can't really see too well. And then pry off of the gearbox and on the shaft. Give it a quick yank like that and it pops out. So before you pop this drive shaft out, you either want to put a bucket underneath it or drain your gearbox. So I've opted for the bucket. I always forget this step. So now we've got the old drive shaft out. So you can see that's reasonably long. So we'll open up the longer of the 2 and put it back in. So I've got the new drive shaft sitting next to the old drive shaft. And as you can see, it's a fair bit more beefy. And it also came with a nut and the washer. So you don't always get these, so I always try and save them just in case. But this one did come with spares. So next, get the drive shaft back into place. And line up the spline with the hole. And then get it all lined up, push it in. And then give it a firm push until you hear a loud click. And then you know it's seated properly. And you can always check to see if the seal and the end of the drive shaft are touching or almost touching. And there's not a huge gap. So once you have the transmission end in, you need to feed the end into the hub again. Then put the nut on, do it up. And then put all the bolts back in, put the caliper back on, and put the wheel back on. So if you're doing this at home and you're wondering what size tools you need, these 2 are a 19. That bolt there is a 14. I said it was a 12 before, but it's actually a 14. The main nut was a 32. The caliper bolts were a 17. And the wheel bolts were a 21. And that's pretty much all you need. A pry bar and a hammer come in good help. And like I said before, a good impact gun also helps a lot. So here it is all put back together. So even if you're using an impact gun, make sure you check everything with a spanner, just in case. So I always double, triple check everything to make sure it's all tight. So ready to put the wheel back on and start on the other side. So of course the side that I didn't film is the interesting one. So I've got it all apart. I've got the drive shaft out, but as you can see there's some bare CVs just there. So there is a section of it left in the gearbox and I cannot get it out. So normally you can just pry it and get it to pop out. And this one I can't get it out at all, so I ended up pulling that bit off. And I've been trying to get this out for about 25 minutes. So I'm just having a break for a minute and questioning my life choices, and then I'll get back into it. So it's been about 2 hours I've been stuck on this now. So Nathan's just rolled up, and he's come to help. So we finally got out the half that was in the gearbox. As you can see, I've absolutely munted the dust seal. So there was a lot of back and forth trying to get this out, and a lot of hammering and belting it. And the winning trick was to push it in so that there was no pressure on it, and then pop the whole thing out, rather than having that circlip there hard up against the gearbox and then trying to force it across. We pushed it in a little bit, so there was a little bit of room between that circlip and the gearbox, and then popped it out. But it took us about an hour or two to get it out, and scun my thumb in the meantime. So finally got it out, and then I pegged it at the bin. So it's good, and the starlet is back together. So I'm just going to move it onto the lawn and pressure wash the engine bay, so Nathan can get ready to sell this thing, take it for a test drive, and we'll see how we go. So Nathan's just going for a test drive, and then he's going to come back and we'll pressure wash it. So Nathan gave it a test drive, and then we degreased and pressure washed the engine bay and the front wheels and half the car. So it's looking heaps better and drives perfect, so problem solved, all fixed. So I just found a deal that will fit in with my $9 that I have remaining at the moment. So Harley and I are in the car. I'm going to go grab this cross member and I'll update you when I get it. So the deal is 2 iced coffees, a strong and a regular, which anyone not from South Australia won't understand, but these are excellent. So 2 for $6. Let's go swap them for this cross member. So I just got home. Here's what we got for our $6. A86 cross member and A86 sway bar and caster arms and caster brackets. Can't go wrong for $6, so I've got $3 left in the till.